This morning is my first Sunday Dharma talk, so a lot of emotions arising and preparing for this talk. My Dharma name is Xianyao, which means, from what I understand, to manifest illumination. Again, this is my first Sunday talk. I have previously led the book discussion group for the book In the Buddha's Words by Bhikkhu Bodhi, which is a great book, last year, and also have facilitated and helped lead the Intro to Buddhism and Intro to Meditation class Sunday mornings as well. But again, my first Sunday talk, I have had the honor of twice previously giving Dharma talks, once here in this seat on right speech, to the teacher training class in monastics and to Master Jiru, and then also on Tranquility at the Bodhisattva retreat, which was in March. And my talk today will also be primarily on Tranquility. The talk is pretty much different than the talk at the Bodhisattva retreat, 90%, so a new talk. Sitting in this seat, to begin with, is a very humbling experience to sit here in front of this Buddha. It's also, I'm honored to sit here where all these great teachers have taught, our senior teachers, Master Jiru, of course. I've seen Bhikkhu Bodhi sit here for a weekend and give just the most profound teachings you could imagine. So hopefully what I say can have just 1/16 of what they said. Hopefully there's some benefit. So I am honored to be here and thankful to Master, our monastics, our senior teachers, the friends in the teacher training course, and all of your friends. So thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak in front of you. In preparing this talk, it's been one of the greatest Dharma lessons of this life. Feelings would arise as I was preparing. Feelings of anxiety, nervousness, and excitedness, which are all similar. They fall sort of in the category of restlessness and worry within the 5 hindrances. And then I would also have a feeling of calm, of peace, of joy, and knowing the conditions have led me here, and this is where I was always going to be. All past causes and conditions led me to right here, right now. And I thought, well, these are all arising simultaneously, but they're not. When you look closely, you see that the joy and the calm, they arise, and then the excited and nervous feelings, those would arise. They don't exist at the same time. So if we want to replace the restlessness, the worry, the monkey mind, one way to do that would be to manifest these wholesome emotions and feelings, such as tranquility, which is my topic today. And it's one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. Anybody here, it's your first time here? Okay, good. So welcome. I want my talk to be completely accessible to you, being your first time. And if it's not a benefit, talk to me afterwards, because that's my goal, is to make this talk a benefit to everybody. So before we get into Tranquility, exactly, I would like to give just a little bit of background information on enlightenment, because we're discussing the 7 factors of enlightenment, and that's what we've been discussing this spring. Well, what is enlightenment? Just very briefly before we get into my topic of tranquility. So Buddhism itself, one way to look at Buddhism would be to see it as the teaching, the study and teaching of enlightenment, the Buddha's Dharma. And how does one begin on this path towards enlightenment? A person would begin the path, it would seem, from my experience, as well as from the common classical definition within Buddhism, the classification, would be with a basic right view. And what is this basic right view that you begin with? It would be that life is frustrating, life is incomplete, it's unsatisfactory, there's something missing, it's fleeting, we're striving for gain, and then we have loss, we have praise, and then we have blame, there's this, and then there's that, and it's very transitory, and because of that, it's unsatisfactory, and it can be called suffering. There's a mental suffering. So from basic right view, following that, we then flow into a basic right intention. And what would that basic right intention be? It would be to understand reality. If our normal worldly life is incomplete, and we see that with this basic right view, the next step would be to transcend that basic normal life. So we have this basic right thought or intention to move beyond the mundane. So logically, how would you overcome that? If you see that life is fleeting and there's something missing, something fundamentally missing, where would you go from there? So first you would examine your current state of existence. You would say to yourself, here's my life today. It's frustrating, it's fleeting, it's suffering, it's stressful, it's filled with anxiety, ups and downs. Second, you would look at the causes of your current situation. How is it that I came to be in this current situation? So you're looking at this very logically. Here I am today. You examine both your current state, this is where I'm at, there's something missing, how did I get here? So you're looking at your past, to how you got to where you're at, and where am I going in the future? So that would be your the third step in this process would be, in the future, where do you want to be? And if your current state is lacking and stressful, the logical answer would be that you want to be someplace that is absent of that feeling of stress, absent of that mental suffering. And this is what enlightenment would be. It's not a place that's up in the clouds and in a way it's here. It's a state that is a mental state that is absent of frustration, discontent, and suffering. It could also be called the full realization of the Buddha's teaching. And the dictionary describes enlightenment as a state of having knowledge or understanding. And other religions use a Greek word, gnosis, for this sort of a knowledge or understanding. But within Buddhism, this gnosis is not a secret teaching. It's not a teaching that's given just to a few select disciples, whereas the rest just gets sort of watered down. It's right there. And the Buddha did teach in this sort of graduated, well, specifically graduated way of teaching, so that you would begin with generosity and morality, then you start working on concentration, and you come to wisdom. But that gnosis, the knowledge of Buddhism, is right there for all of us. So the same teaching, the same practice that Master practices, we can also practice. It's right there. So what do we do now? What can we do now to, in the future, reside in this place of enlightenment? Within Buddhism, there's a lot of different practices. You can practice the Eightfold Path, which is basically what we've been discussing here so far. It's one of my primary focuses of practice. The 6 Paramitas, you can study the 4 Noble Truths. And in truth, you can take a book such as, I didn't bring it up here, but in the Buddha's words, open it up anywhere and point. Whatever you point to, that's a fine place to begin. There's 80,000 different ways to begin, perfect for different temperaments. But this spring at MABA, we've been discussing the 7 factors of enlightenment. So my topic, and within that is tranquility. The 7 factors is a specialized numerical training which will bring about enlightenment or the absence of suffering. So the 7 factors are mindfulness, keen investigation, energy, joy. It brings us to 5, tranquility, which is my topic, followed by concentration and equanimity. The first 4 were discussed previous weeks, and those can be accessed online, watched on video or audio, and I highly recommend because they lead up to my talk. And then in the next few weeks, we'll move into concentration and equanimity to round out the 7 factors. My talk, for the remainder of the time, will focus on tranquility. I will begin discussing the characteristics of tranquility and how it manifests within the mind and body. I will also discuss the nutriments or causes and conditions which can lead to tranquility. So tranquility can be described as a calm, a serenity, a composure. It has been described by Joseph Goldstein, I believe, as a soothing factor of mind which quiets down disturbances. And I think that that's quite a perfect definition of tranquility. Along with equanimity and concentration, tranquility will balance the hindrance of restlessness and worry, and I'll get into that more as we go along here. Within the path, as I mentioned, it's preceded by joy, which then becomes a nutriment for tranquility. Tranquility precedes concentration. Concentration precedes equanimity. Tranquility is a physical composure as well as a mental calm. So it's more than just a temporary relaxation. There are a lot of methods out there for relaxing, and certainly a lot of methods out there for numbing the mind to keep us sort of apart from issues of the world. But that's not what tranquility is. It's a continuous calm, and from my examination, it certainly seems like it is really is a tranquility of all five of the aggregates, it would appear. And the aggregates, the five aggregates are these five items that are the basis for clinging. So humans will attach to these and form our idea of self. And those five are form, feeling, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. And I'm not going to get deep into that, but this is we're beginning to see how tranquility, when studied and practiced, can cut through the delusion of regular mundane life. So it's helping us cut through the idea of self. And one of the key tenets of Buddhism is non-self, and we're seeing the interconnection of all things. And tranquility can specifically help us do that. We're talking about a calming of the body, the speech, our thoughts, and our consciousness. Not just our mind, and not just our body, everything. It's a complete tranquility. And as a factor of enlightenment, this is a calm that's going to flow into our everyday life. It's not that you practice and it's just very temporary. It remains with us throughout our day, and it helps us to remain calm in times of difficulty. So emotions through this practice were leading up to tranquility with the previous four, and then we go on through 7. With this entire practice, it allows our emotions to be unswayed by external conditions. So we're mindful of our feelings. A feeling arises within us, and because we're practicing, we're aware of this feeling arising. So let's say it's anger. Something happens and anger arises within us. We're tranquil as well as all the other factors, but tranquility specifically, if we're tranquil and in a tranquil place, there's a chance eventually on the path that feeling of anger does not even arise, but I haven't touched that myself, so I can only speak from my own experience. What I am able to touch is when anger arises, I'm aware, and that anger does not take control. It does not then manifest as actions, words, or additional thoughts, additional unwholesome thoughts, which then flow and continue to create additional unwholesome thoughts. So we are mindful of our feelings. And tranquility can help us to bring that about. From the Abhidharma, tranquility is said to help to arise 4 states. There are 4 states mentioned, 4 wholesome mental states that arise from tranquility specifically. And this again is showing us how tranquility can help us cut through the illusion of mundane life and get into the suchness of being awake, of enlightenment. And those 4 states of mind mentioned are 1, lightness, and this would be a lightness of being. You can imagine a feather is light and tranquil, floating on the air. 2, wieldiness. 3, proficiency. 4, sincerity, or an uprightness of mind. And I think that this is a very interesting state that is derived from calm or tranquility. My first talk, we were able to decide what we wanted to talk on, and I spoke on right speech because I can see clearly that if we cut out false speech specifically, we're peeling away the layers of falsehood over reality, and we're paying attention to the way that we speak. We're also paying attention to the way that we act because we don't want to have to cover up our actions. So when the mind is calm, there's a natural honesty. The veils of disreality are slowly removed, peeled away, and you reside in truth and you reside in reality. And again, unswayed by external factors, and you're speaking the truth and acting wholesomely because you're at peace. So it's interesting and certainly beneficial to study and ponder the factor of tranquility and to look deeply into the causes of its arising, or rather our stepping into the flow of tranquility, because really, like enlightenment, tranquility is always there. We're just residing over here in the mundane and the stressful, of the anxiety, and the this and the that world. So how do we do this? And again, if one has the basic right view that there's something missing, that flow, and life is stressful, we need to do something about this, then have the right intention to understand reality and to see through that. A good way, and I think the most logical way to do that, is to say, here's my current situation. What about my current situation is blocking my path to enlightenment? So the 5 hindrances, the Buddha described 5 hindrances that hinder our progress along the path to awakening. And these 5 briefly are sense desires, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. And we'll briefly discuss number 4, restlessness and worry. And I talked about this a little bit before, but restlessness and worry is an inability to calm the mind. Restlessness is an agitated and excited mind that will not settle down. It's an anxious mind. It's sort of the common mind, I think. The monkey mind we hear it defined as, it's a mind that jumps around from this to that, always chasing after something new and exciting. Worry would be remorse over our past mistakes, and anxiety about their possible unwholesome outcomes or undesired outcomes. So that would be the remorse portion. So if our current state is one of restlessness and worry or anxiety, which is a sort of a common feeling within the world, we must look and see how it is that we came to this state and how we can get out. The Buddha describes this sort of analysis as a study of nutriment. And this study of nutriment is nothing more than it's very deep. It's a deep study of cause and effect, and it cuts the heart of Buddhism into the heart of reality. You're looking at, how did I come to this? What fed into where I'm at right now? What can I feed into my current situation, my body, my mind, my consciousness, to get me to where I would rather be? And this is a place that is void of that suffering. So what is the nutriment for the monkey mind? If we're talking about this anxiety-ridden mind, what's the nutriment for that? It's a non-stillness of awareness. So that would be, as opposed to being mindful, we're being dismindful, unmindful. So it's a non-stillness of awareness. And then also it's our past deeds. If our past deeds are less than wholesome, we would describe them as unwholesome. And those past unwholesome deeds, this is looking at karma. We're seeing that our past deeds flow into the future. And if our deeds, our thoughts, our actions, our words are less than wholesome, it's going to breed less than wholesome results. And the Buddha said in the Discourse on Right View, which is probably my favorite discourse, when something has come to be, we have to acknowledge its presence and look deeply into its nature. When we look deeply, we will discover the kinds of nutriments that helped it come to be and continue to feed it. So how to overcome restlessness and worry? Along with equanimity and concentration, which are the last 2 steps on the path to enlightenment, the arising of tranquility will neutralize or replace this feeling of restlessness, worry, this anxiety. So how do we manifest tranquility? What are the causes and conditions which lead to the arising of this calm mind and calm body? To begin with, it would be the previous 4 within the 7 factors, of course. So we're looking at mindfulness, investigation, energy, and joy, which then lead into tranquility. So if we're practicing this full 7-step process towards enlightenment, those first 4 lead into tranquility. And then we also look at the nutriment of tranquility itself. And the MABA, the path of purification, there's identified 7 specific factors which lead to tranquility. The first of which would be superior food. And if we're talking about superior food, what would be superior food which would lead to tranquility? I would say fruits, vegetables, locally grown fruits and vegetables, so that we're not causing destruction to the environment by transporting them across the country and the world. Non-GMO fruits and vegetables, fresh water, organically produced foods. Foods we grow ourselves specifically would be great as superior food for the nutriment of tranquility. Number 2, or I would also say as far as superior food, what would not be superior food? Processed foods, which cause a disturbance within the body, these high sugar foods, sodas, any sort of intoxicant that would dull the mind, and also meat would certainly fall within that category of non-superior foods. So number 2, living in good climate is the second factor of nutriment for tranquility. And I think for us now in this life, conditions are very favorable in regards to living in good climate. Not only is it beautiful here, I mean, this day is perfect. All days aren't perfect, but we can come inside. So if it's 100 degrees outside, we can come inside and we have air conditioner. If it's 0 degrees outside, we can come inside and we have heat. So in this life and in this world that we're living in good climate, conditions are favorable for us, certainly there. Number 3 is to maintain a pleasant posture, and I can see that as how we're sitting in meditation and how we walk in meditation. Also how we carry ourselves in everyday life. It's an uprightness of being, an uprightness of self in the way that we interact with the world, and there's an honesty, a suchness to that. So maintain a pleasant posture. Maybe have a slight smile on our face. If you're ever feeling less than happy, just put a little smile on your face, and it sounds silly, but it does work, and it brings about calm. I practiced that as we were doing the walking meditation today, because I was having feelings of nervousness arise in preparation for this talk. So, number 4 is keeping to the middle, and this would be in regards to the Buddha's teaching. So we're not going too far one way or the other. We're on the middle path. We're not going in a cave and just locking ourselves away for our entire life, and we're not indulging this idea of self. We're seeing through the idea of self and reaching out and helping others, and this would be keeping to the middle. Number 5 and 6 would go together. They would be avoiding violent persons and cultivating with tranquil persons. And here at MABA, again, the conditions are favorable for this. We're able to practice with a lot of tranquil individuals. And the Buddha said, and we've said lots of times, that the path is not, good friends is not half of the path, but good friends is the entirety of the path. And we have that here. We have good friends to help us along the path. And number 7 is a resoluteness upon tranquility. So when you've made a resoluteness or a right intention to practice tranquility, from my experience, situations arise within everyday life that help you to bring about that tranquility. So number 7 is a resoluteness upon tranquility. Finally, the Satipatthana Sutta gives us instructions for working with tranquility or any of these factors. So if we're paying attention to the causes and conditions which give rise to tranquility, we see where we're at now, where we were at in the past, and where we're headed in the future, where we want to be in the future. And in the sutta, it says, when tranquility or any of the steps are present, but when tranquility is present, one knows that it's present, because we're looking at the causes and conditions which give rise to it. And we have a resoluteness upon the manifesting of tranquility, so we know what tranquility is, we know what non-tranquility is. So when it arises, we're aware. If it is not present, we also know that it is not present. So if we're not calm and we're not tranquil, we're aware of that as well. Number 3, one knows how the unarisen factor of tranquility can arise. And again, we're looking at the nutriments which bring about tranquility. The first 4 within the 7 factors, and then those 7 items that I mentioned can help us to bring about the unarisen factor of tranquility, and also how the arisen factor of tranquility can be perfected by development. So we're mindful when we are calm, and we are mindful when we are not calm. So we're aware of where we're at in that state. We're mindful of the conditions leading to not calm, and we're mindful of the conditions leading to calm. And then we use this logical knowledge or gnosis to help us cultivate tranquility.